This exercise involves finding the dimensions of a room. It says that a rectangular room has a perimeter of 48 feet. The width is 2/3 of the length. Given that, we're asked to find the dimensions of the room. Now, since we have a rectangle, we're looking at the perimeter of the room. When we go to our first step of problem solving to familiarize ourselves with the situation, we would need to recall or look up the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle. The perimeter of a rectangle is twice the length plus twice the width. And what do we know? Well, we know from the problem situation that the width is 2/3 of the length and the total perimeter is 48 feet. So we might want to write that the width is 2/3 of the length and the perimeter is 48 feet. Now, given this much information, we're ready to go to our next step in the problem-solving process, which is to translate the problem to mathematical language. In this case, we're going to be able to use this equation and substitute these and be able to get an equation that contains just one variable, which we know how to solve. Our formula, general formula for the perimeter was P equals 2L plus 2W. We know the perimeter is 48 feet, so I can write 48 for that. And I have now two variables left, L and W. But I know that W is 2/3 of L. So where I have a W, I can write this would be 2 times, and then I write 2/3 times L. And now I have an equation with one variable that I know how to solve. And I can go to the next step in the problem-solving process, which is to solve that equation. In order to solve this equation, we will start by multiplying 2 times 2/3. We have 48 equals 2L plus 4/3 L. Now we have two terms that contain L. We can combine these. Notice that 2 is 6/3. And 6/3 and 4/3 is 10/3. So I can write this as 10/3 L, and the other side is 48. Now I want to solve for L. Recall that when I have something like 10/3 times L, if I multiply by the reciprocal of 10/3 or 3/10, I then would have 1 times L, or just L. So I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 3/10. It's 3/10 times 48 equals 3/10 times 10/3 times L. This side of the equation is simply L, which is what I was trying to get. Over here we have 3/10 times 48. To simplify that, I'm going to factor the denominator. This is 3 times 48, and the denominator is 2 times 5. And since there's a factor of 2 in 48, I'm going to factor 48 as 2 times 24. The 2's then cancel. There's no factor of 5 in the numerator. So I just multiply and I get 72/5 equals L. Now, if L is 72/5, remember that W is 2/3 times L. So W then would be 2/3 times 72/5. Once again, I need to simplify, and I notice that in the denominator I have 3 times 5, and although 5 is not a factor of 72, 3 is. So I'm going to factor this as 2 times 3, and 3 goes into 72 24 times, and then that would be 3 times 5. Those would cancel, and I have a W equals 48/5. Now, typically, we don't give our answers in something like this. It'd be more practical to give it as a mixed numeral. So I could also write L and W as mixed numerals. Then I'll do that in the final step. So let's go to the next step in the problem-solving process, which is to check our answer. Now we had that L was 72/5 and W was 48/5. Now going through this process, I found W by finding that it was 2/3 of L. So that takes care of part of the problem. We said that the width was 2/3 of the length. If we have this length and this width, will that give us a perimeter of 48 feet? Well, we can check that. The perimeter was 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Now multiplying, that gives us 144/5 plus 96/5. And if we add, that gives us 240/5, which is 48. Lots of work with fractions, but if you work carefully and follow the rules, you'll see that the perimeter of the room would then be 48 feet, so that would check. So when we go to state the answer, we would say the length of the room is 72/5 feet, or more practically, writing that as a mixed numeral, that is 14 2/5 feet. And then the width of the room is 48/5 feet. Or if you're going to measure it, it'd be more practical to have that as a mixed numeral. That's 9 3/5 feet. And I've stated the answer clearly, so I'm finished with the problem.